You're watching The Movie Surgeon. Horror is a strange genre these days. If you scroll through Netflix, it seems to either be big blockbusters like Insidious or It, which bring in the big bucks, with a few great well-knowns creeping up like Hereditary or The Witch. Then there's a sea of low-budget and typically awful films or awful endless remakes of classics. But in amongst that swamp of rubbish, there's some real gems that have been overlooked. So I've put together a tiny list of 3 films that stick out in my mind as being overlooked by the general public in the horror genre, that I believe deserve as much attention as the likes of the big boys. Now, before I start, why don't you subscribe to my channel, huh? And stick on the notification bell, I promise it's worth it. Number 1, The Ritual. In our first pick, we're heading to a fairly traditional horror setting of some woods with the 2017 film The Ritual. It's a very British film which follows a bunch of old friends going camping together in Sweden to remember a friend who's recently died. Then once there, they run into some paranormally trouble in the woods. I'd say it's a little bit like The Inbetweeners meets the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, we cut the journey in half.
What, through the forest?
Yeah, why not?
Brilliant idea. Now, this film's premise may not seem like a very original concept at all, considering haunting idiots in the woods is a subgenre which has been milked more times than this cow, but there's something about this film that makes it stand out from others in an original way. The lead, Rafe Spall, is known for being in some great British films like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, Kidulthood, as well as a multitude of other great films across the pond and elsewhere. And there's something very British he brings to the screen, a sort of British unbothered sadness. Nothing's overdone when he's on screen, which I think works really nicely in the horror genre. It's also starring Asher Ali of the brilliant comedy Four Lions.
It's like Tupac said, when I die I am not dead.
Ash's character Phil adds some great comic relief, who along with pals Hutch and Dick of the group Dom create a really enjoyable group dynamic. It's their dynamic whilst in the situation they're in that makes it more enjoyable than other films like it. It's not some dumb spring breakers or teenagers that you literally want to see die the entire film. It's actually a group of fairly relatable average guys going on a nice camping trip. Without wanting to give away too many spoilers, once they enter the woods they are subjected to some horrifying ordeals that are genuinely scary to watch, and the suspense is built up really well. It was on Netflix, but it seems to be gone now that I'm actually doing a video on it. But I'm still going to keep Netflix in the title. As of recording this video, it's on Amazon Prime for about £3, so go and watch it. Number 2, Veronica. Taking a short flight now, our next film is a Spanish one set in Madrid in the early 90s. This is an even more traditional style horror film following in the footsteps of The Exorcist. The story follows Veronica, surprisingly, who, along with friend Rosa and terrible person Diana, decides to try and contact her late father and Diana's late ex-boyfriend who died in a motorbike accident, which she seems gutted about. These 3 geniuses decide to use a Ouija board to contact the dead. Again, an idea milked drier than a bag of dog food, but, and it's a big but because I'm genuinely trying to convince you to watch this film, I think it's the traditional style again that actually makes it a good film. For decades now we've had horrors which try so hard to squeeze entertainment out of worn out ideas, resulting in movies which make you want to pull your eyes out, especially using Ouija boards for cheap scares, so it's refreshing to watch a traditional idea actually done well. The film uses a unique concept of being based on a true story, which usually is a load of rubbish, but if you look up the original story it's based on, it's actually pretty scary, pretty weird. As I said, it clearly takes inspiration from The Exorcist with the shots used and the overall theme, but it has a lot more surreal elements which make it more accessible to a modern audience. For example, there's this scene where things are all sort of going backwards and forwards. It's a really well made film, the cinematography is great and the music's really nice, and it's only an hour and 40 minutes, which is a great length for a horror film. Also, it's in Spanish. To me, it's just more interesting to watch than a lot of other horror films which are typically American. No offense, Americans. Also, the film features a scary nun before the nun made scary nuns cool, and it's actually got good child actors, which is quite refreshing. I won't go into any more detail because you need to watch it for yourself. This one actually is still on Netflix as of recording this video, so give it a watch tonight. Number 3, The Platform. Spain seems to be taking rule of the horror genre as the third and final film on this list is another Spanish one, so I'm afraid there's more subtitle reading. There is an English dubbed version, but don't watch that. Now this is where my jokes about originality come to an end, as this film is pretty unique. Now it's definitely more of a thriller than a horror, and has a more extroverted way of exploring deeper ideas other than people being killed and mangled. It follows Ivan, who's either ended up in a very, very tall prison or a very, very deep prison, with a 2-person cell on each floor. He finds himself stranded with an old man who's claimed the word obviously as his own. Obviously. Ivan signed up voluntarily to be incarcerated for 6 months as part of his scheme in return for a diploma, and he thought that was how the whole thing worked, until he finds out that his first cellmate is in for killing someone. The basic idea is there's hundreds of floors stacked on top of each other in this prison called The Hole. A platform is laid out with food only once a day on the top level, and travels down through the centre of all the levels, from the top floor all the way through to the bottom, and you eat whatever leftovers there are from the floor above you. It covers a lot of themes in its 1 hour and 34 minute runtime. That is a juicy runtime. You've got politics, with issues of sharing the load, as the platform represents society, and the belief that those who are kind and compassionate don't actually get very far in life, and those who are savage and selfish do.
De buen corazón. No creo que sobreviva usted mucho tiempo.
Each month, our unfortunate character Ivan finds himself on a new random level, where the higher the number, the lower down you are and the less food there is, with people resorting to desperate measures on the lower levels. Enthusiasts of cannibalism and poo will love this film. It's a great example of a simple concept executed well, and that is all I'm going to say about it, because I don't want to spoil it anymore. This film is also available on Netflix right now as of recording this video, so I'd highly recommend you go and give it a watch. And that's it. These are just a few films that I think in the grand scheme of things are generally underrated in the horror genre. So you've got some films to watch now. You're welcome. Did you enjoy that list? Do you want me to make more? Do you agree with me? Do you have any suggestions of your own that I should have put in the list and maybe in a part 2? Let me know in the comments and I'll reply to each and every comment I get under this video. You've been lucky enough to be watching The Movie Surgeon. I make videos like this every week or so if you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe and go to my channel and check out my other stuff. Also, when subscribing, turn on that notification bell to be the first to be informed of my uploads. See you next time. Bye!